Today is episode 74 with Dr. B.
Welcome to the Living Beyond ADHD podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
Hey, ADDers. The topic of menopause and ADHD is a really important one, and it's not often talked about. It's important if you're premenopause, perimenopause, going through menopause, or even postmenopause, and wondering at any point along the way what hits you. And it's even important if you're a male listener, since you most likely live with or work with such women. If you'd like a space to discuss this topic or ask your own questions about menopause, I suggest that you join the Living Beyond ADHD Facebook group. The one thing about podcasting is that I don't get to meet you all unless you show up in my Facebook group. It's a great community to connect with, fun posts, polls, and ways to interact, plus Facebook Lives on topics that I've chosen or topics that you all have requested. Speaking of questions, do you have a question for me? I bet you do. Probably lots of questions that you'd like answered about adult ADHD or executive functioning. I love answering questions, and I'd love to answer your questions, and have made it easy for you to get your questions to me. Just click the link in the episode notes and ask your questions privately. They come directly to me. Click the link that you'll find, which is drbarbaracohen.com/ask-dr-b, and just ask your question. I can't wait to read your questions and start answering them. Before I get to today's question and answer, I have a question for you. It's about your state of mind and your wins, of course. I can't emphasize this enough, and I'm going to continue to ask you about your wins and encourage you to celebrate them, especially in the Facebook group. There's a weekly post, Wednesday Wins, where you can share your wins, big and small. I'd love to know about your wins and celebrate with you. Plus, if you don't have other people to share your wins with who really get it, then the Facebook group is the perfect place to celebrate with others who do get it and understand what a big deal each win is. Having a wins mindset can transform how you experience your life, even during these very, very, very challenging times, like now, and how you experience your life and the meanings that you give to the events of your life contribute greatly to the quality of your life. Since we know that what you focus on grows, and that it's important to stand guard at the doorway to your mind and not let in things that don't serve you, why focus on anything but wins? That way, you can continue to attract more and more wins into your life, all leading you to the life that you want. It's really important that you celebrate a win today, even if you're feeling bad about yourself because your ADHD or something else has taken your life to an all-time low. I get it, I do. Yet it doesn't take away from the fact that at least one thing has gone right today, or one thing is right with you. You are a precious child of the universe and are called a human being, not a human doing, for good reason. You don't have to earn your value because you were born with it. Your value comes from who you are, not what you do. Got it? I hope so, because you're going to continue to hear me say it over and over and over again, because it's so important both to your self-esteem and your quality of life. Some people have asked me recently, what is a win? So a win can be just about anything. It's those little things that happen every day that are good things, positive things in the bigger picture of your life, and yet probably go unnoticed, unacknowledged, and uncelebrated by you. Please, don't be the person who continues to tell yourself that it's pointless to reward yourself for what it is that you're supposed to do. That couldn't be further from the truth. Those are the very things that deserve and need to be celebrated, so they become easier to do and do them consistently and more enjoyably each and every time you do them. So what's it going to be for you today? If you've recently joined our Facebook group, that's a win. If you intend to join the group this week, that's certainly a win. Perhaps you've started working on your decision-making abilities and it's getting easier. That's a huge win, since you make decisions every day, all day long. And maybe you've purchased some analog clocks so that you can actually see the passing of time. That's a great win. You get the point. Celebrate all of them. And none of this half-hearted celebrating. You've got to mean it. Exaggerate your emotions. Yes, wow, awesome. Be sure to celebrate your wins, big and small, because celebrating daily makes a difference faster in your life than waiting around for the big wins. Shifting gears now. Today's episode was inspired by a question from a listener in Illinois on how menopause affects ADHD. I'll be sharing her situation, some action steps, and of course, a favorite quote of mine. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast transcript, grade free content, plus information on programs and services, including the groundbreaking Adventures in Achievement online coaching program and one-to-one services with Dr. B. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
Now back to being an adult with ADHD in today's world. I want to thank Tanera in Illinois for today's topic about the impact of menopause on ADHD. She asked, and she shared, how does menopause affect ADHD? I'm menopausal, not taking hormone therapy, but I think I have ADHD. I struggle with self-esteem because my mind doesn't work as well as it used to, and I feel like a failure. During the coronavirus lockdown, working from home and having a second grader learning from home, it's overwhelming. It takes me forever to focus, and with distractions, work seems impossible. I'm 45 years old. I actually started menopause at 42. I think I struggle with executive function, moving from one task to another. My brain has been hijacked. I am not functioning at the level that I used to. I'm not on medication. I have hypothyroidism as well. I was never officially diagnosed, and I struggle with anxiety and depression. Thanks for your question about menopause, Tanera, and for giving me permission to share your story with others. I need to remind you and everyone that I'm not an MD and do not have the medical understanding or training that an MD has to explain what happens with menopause. However, here's what I've learned from my own journey through menopause and my work with many, many women over the years. I hope it'll shed some light and be of benefit, and then I'll talk specifically about what you wrote to me. I didn't know about the impact of menopause on women with ADHD until I went into perimenopause around age 52. What a shock it was. For the majority of my life, I had created criteria, structures, rituals, strategies, rules, and guidelines that had supported me or provided the scaffolding that I needed to successfully go to college, complete all my degrees, as well as successfully start and grow my business. So prior to age 52, I didn't really feel that my ADHD was a huge challenge. And perhaps this is your story as well. When perimenopause set in, it was as if I had inherited an alien brain in place of the one I previously had, which is what I heard you describing. None of the well-thought-out structures and such were working anymore. It was crazy. What I learned is that when women go into menopause, their estrogen levels begin to decline, and the cognitive function is affected by the decline in estrogen. And so ADHD symptoms appear much more pronounced and troublesome. And to me, that's putting it mildly. So, of course, my first thought was about hormone replacement therapy, but given my family's history, that wasn't an option for me. So my next consideration was medication, which was the first time I had considered that as an option. I researched the various medications, given my years of working in medical offices while in college, and decided on what I felt would be the best option for me. I sought out a prescriber, discussed my decision, and started with medication. I feel incredibly fortunate in terms of absolutely no side effects and only benefits from the medication. The plan was to utilize the medication until I felt that I had a solid foundation of new skills, abilities, and strategies on board and solidly in place, and then to titrate off the medication. Clearly, there are no skills in pills, and so there's been a lot of new learning and studying of myself that I needed to do in order to construct a new way of living that works well moving forward. I am so grateful that I took all the time that I've needed to do this for myself. It's been quite the gift of self-love, and I encourage you all to do the same. Here's some interesting information for you all to consider. Both the brain and the gut share much of the same tissue. You've probably heard of the neurotransmitter serotonin, which is responsible for regulating things in the body like mood and appetite and sleep. The right amount of serotonin in the brain produces a relaxed and positive feeling. As it turns out, approximately 90% of the serotonin in the body is located in the gut. The remaining 10% is synthesized in the central nervous system. So when your gut is a mess, like with leaky gut syndrome or other imbalances, it can have a huge impact on your mood and your cognitive functioning. For that reason, my gut health has become a priority for my increased health and well-being, as it has been for many people I know and work with. Gut bacteria significantly influences the communication between the brain and the gut. When the gut is full of healthy bacteria, it has the potential to regulate mood and positive feelings. And when it doesn't, we're at risk for depression and less effective cognitive functioning, which to me is possibly what is also happening to women who enter perimenopause and menopause and get hit with such a radical shift in functioning. Plus, for medications and other nutrients to be absorbed effectively, your gut needs to be clean and functioning well. If it's all coated over with gunk from years of poor eating habits, it just can't do the job that it's supposed to be doing for you. There was another question that came up along the way with women that I've worked with, students and clients of mine, that have asked as to how doctors in general can give women with ADHD the support they need and deserve if these doctors aren't trained to identify ADHD in women. Well, the short answer is they can't. And it isn't just the medical doctors. The lack of training across the board of professionals with regard to adult ADHD, and more specifically adult women with ADHD, is staggering. It seems like it's up to us women to become educated ourselves so we can advocate and seek the best care available once we know what we need to be looking for. Certainly not a perfect solution, and yet it seems to be what we're faced with. The diagnostic criterion for ADHD is male-based, not based on females, so that just adds to the challenges that we women experience. However, there are professionals out there who are well-trained and can help us. It just takes some looking. So shifting now to responding specifically to your issues, Tanera. Comparing your pre-menopause mind to your mind now is definitely not a good idea. Your mind is going through lots of changes that need to be addressed as you pass through menopause, and feeling like a failure, if it's coming from the comparison of before and now, doesn't serve you at all. I get it that you aren't producing at the level that you're used to and the difficulties that you expressed, and that truly can change. Plus, when you say that you feel like a failure is an identity statement about you and not what you're doing. It is a statement about you, the human being, not you, the human doing, who isn't doing so well at the moment. So the first action step here is, let's get you to shift what you're saying about yourself or to yourself to something like, I am not producing the level of work I'm used to producing, or I am more challenged to stay on top of the things that used to be much easier for me to stay on top of. These are all statements about behaviors, not identity. They're not I am statements about you. And they're also the truth. You're still the human being that you were before menopause, and it's how you're able to behave and respond. That's what's different. The human doing part of the deal right now. So let's keep things at the behavior level rather than the identity level. The second action step. If you've attached your self-esteem to how well you produce in life, then of course your self-esteem is taking a hit. However, if you attach your self-esteem to your human beingness, then your value is 100% and it's intact every moment of every day. And given the coronavirus lockdown, if your focusing was challenged before, which you didn't mention and perhaps didn't notice too much, it would definitely be more challenging now. Not only do you need to focus, you need to shift your focus back and forth from work tasks to second grader learning to home tasks and back and forth all day long. This means that you have to make a lot more decisions than usual, shift more than usual, and regulate your emotions more than usual. All of these are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of executive function skills that need to be in good shape, great shape, to weather this challenging time. And add to that you going through menopause and having your executive functioning taking a hit. It's no wonder that you're overwhelmed and exhausted. The third action step, being able to get started without distractions. This is a much more complex process than most people know. To get started, to stay with a task, to follow through to the finish, you need to know what you need for the task, have everything you need in front of you, know the steps of the task that you need to start and finish. Basically, you need to know everything it's going to take to successfully start and finish before you even get started. And healthy getting started means you stay on task, don't get derailed or distracted by getting up over and over again to get something to drink or go to the bathroom or take a phone call or answer an email. Whatever you're booked to do at that specific time is what you're doing, and that's it. You take care of everything else before you sit down to work on the task, including whatever your child might need for the next hour or two, so that you can work uninterrupted and effectively. This means setting healthy boundaries and limits in the home so that it respects the needs of everyone. And I get it. I'm not saying that this is easy and it happens overnight, and yet this is what needs to happen. The fourth action step. You mentioned that you struggle with anxiety and depression, and also that you have hypothyroidism. Again, I'm not an MD. However, I do know that an improperly treated underactive thyroid can cause a host of problems, such as depression, impaired memory, and overall fatigue. And these can mimic executive function challenges. Add to this the impact of your anxiety, your depression, and menopause on your executive functioning, and it's not hard to understand why you're finding life so challenging right now. There are many tests to consider with an underactive thyroid that are often not run to really find out what the issues are. To learn more about these tests, see the book, Why Do I Still Have Thyroid Symptoms When My Lab Tests Are Normal? And the author is Datis, D-A-T-I-S, and I'll spell the last name, K-H-A-R-R-A-Z-I-A-N. And to learn more about the relationship between depression and thyroid, see a book, Depression and Your Thyroid, by Gary S. Ross, MD, and Peter J. Beeling, PhD. Both of these are great books on all of these issues, and I think it will provide a lot of insight. The fifth action step. You do not need to be officially diagnosed with ADHD to develop your executive function skills. Many people who don't have ADHD have executive function challenges because the source of the challenge comes when the energy and the focus that's supposed to be going to the development of these skills is going elsewhere due to things like depression, anxiety, addictions, trauma, and more. So, Tanera, please know that there is real hope for resolving the challenges that you wrote me about that you're experiencing. It seems that going through menopause brings to light executive function challenges that many women may not have even been aware of without going through menopause. And knowing that it's skills and not something worse, you have the power to learn these skills and turn your life around, even without a diagnosis. I hope this episode has given you all some ideas about the impact of menopause on women with ADHD and the many options to consider when moving forward with your own health plan. It's definitely important to attend to your gut health if you haven't already done so. And for those of you who aren't yet of menopause age, I highly recommend that you take preventative steps for your gut health starting today. You'll be really glad that you did. I get that this may sound overwhelming and like too much to tackle alone. And that's one of the reasons I created the Facebook group, Living Beyond ADHD, so that we can take these kinds of steps together as a community. It makes a huge difference. Underdeveloped executive function skills are reaching epidemic proportions, no matter what the underlying source of the derailment is. These essential skills are what we all need to thrive as adults in today's world. If we can't plan, organize, prioritize, get started, and keep going until the end, or regulate states of overwhelm and analysis paralysis so that we can make a solid decision and know that it's solid, it's going to cost us dearly. Similarly, we're told that ADHD cannot be cured. Why would we even think of curing a configuration of brain that's amazing? Rather, by becoming a student of your own life, understanding what you need to succeed with a multifaceted brain that you have, and how to learn the essential executive function skills and strategies, you'll be able to engage the strengths that your unique mind possesses, because it definitely does. You know, there's still way too much stigma attached to adult ADHD and underdeveloped executive function skills. Some adults talk about their struggles openly, while others feel such shame that it's their best-kept secret. I'm on a mission to put an end to the needless suffering of adults everywhere, whether this suffering comes as a result of ADHD, chronic depression, chronic anxiety, addictions, trauma, chronic illnesses. All of these conditions can contribute to the underdevelopment of executive function skills, and hence they lead to tons and tons of needless suffering. Two things here are really important. One, there is a real solution because these are skills and these can be learned no matter what your age or stage of life. And two, you do not need a diagnosis to build up your executive functioning skills at all. A favorite quote of mine from the character Socrates in the movie Peaceful Warrior. He said, "I call myself a peaceful warrior because the battles that we fight are on the inside." This moment, a favorite quote of mine from the character Socrates in the movie Peaceful Warrior. Socrates said, "I call myself a peaceful warrior because the battles we fight are on the inside. This moment is the only thing that matters." I love this quote. It's so powerful to me. This moment is the only thing that matters. It's the only time that we can make a change that's going to impact how the future unfolds for each and every one of us. And we have this power in every moment of our lives. If you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right either way. Are you willing to compassionately challenge your beliefs and peacefully tackle your insides? I sure hope so. Whether you're learning from my podcast episodes or live videos or working with me directly, you're in my world and I'm here to serve your needs. So be sure to reach out and get your needs met. It's up to you to take that action so that things can change for you. Be sure to check out the show notes to learn about all the great resources that I've made available to you. And definitely make it a priority to join the Facebook group, Living Beyond ADHD. You won't regret it. I appreciate you showing up to listen today and in the future. If you enjoyed today's episode or any of my other episodes, please share this podcast show with your friends and family, as well as rate the show. If you'd like to do a little more, write a thoughtful review on iTunes so I know that I'm meeting your needs. It doesn't have to be anything lengthy, just a line or two of how the podcast is helping you, if it is. I love hearing from you. And ratings and reviews is what makes it possible for others to learn about this podcast show more easily and more quickly. It means a lot to me to know that your life is getting a little bit better every time we get together. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the resources I referred to in today's episode. I hope to see you in the Facebook group, Living Beyond ADHD, enjoying the live videos I do on my Dr. B Facebook page, following me on Instagram, as well as joining in the live masterclass in just a couple of days from now. That is, if any of this is of interest to you. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, bye for now.
Thanks for your undivided attention. If you're eager to make positive changes in your life, head over to drbarbaracohen.com to see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love making changes with community support in a group environment or prefer one-to-one coaching or psychotherapy, you'll find all the information you need to get started at drbarbaracohen.com.